Hi everybody, I'm Rock with Rock Solid Heating, and I'm here today with John with Crawford Oil. And like we've done with a couple of other episodes here, we like to just help our customers understand what we're doing so that they can in turn help us serve them better. The reason we brought John here today, John, is I feel that you are as passionate about serving others as we are, and that's the real thing is I'm passionate about fixing furnaces.
Mm-hmm.
You're passionate about getting them the fuel.
Getting the propane,
Yep. So whatever that is, and in the last couple of years, as I've been working on furnaces, and especially LP, there's some questions that I've come across. I'm like, man, I don't know the answer. I had a customer that had recently purchased a home,
Mm-hmm.
and I get there and they're out of LP.
Mm.
And I'm like, hey, John, can you fill this up for me? I got a customer without gas.
Yeah.
And I get a response like,
Depends on who owns the tank.
it says here on their paperwork that the owner owns the tank. How do I know who owns the tank?
It's a delicate dance. We do get this quite often, especially with the recent housing market boom again. Usually the first thing we do is we look for any sort of labels on the tank.
Okay.
If all labels have been usually underneath the lid of the tank,
Okay.
like we do now, we just put our contact information underneath the lid, or we'll find from the previous supplier, sometimes they'll write the letter COT, that means customer owned tank.
Oh.
You'll see that in Sharpie from maybe another company, and that's a reminder to that driver. So it's kind of a legacy thing. Sometimes, of course, there's decals on the outside. If there is decals on the outside or underneath the lid or something, what we do then is we can actually contact the company and or the owner can. But if we're there, we'll do it ourselves and we'll just ask. And then we just have to kind of abide by that. If they say that yep, truly is customer owned tank, away we go. We fill up, run a leak check, and away we go from there. But if it is owned by another company, it is that company's property, and we cannot fill it. Nobody can fill a tank owned by another company. So we do get it a lot. We'll get out there and they'll say they own the tank, and we'll see the sticker and say, nope, sorry, until we get confirmation. And usually we will talk to the other company to confirm ourselves. So that's kind of one of the things I always like to let people know. If you are buying a home and the seller is saying they own it, please ask for confirmation. It saves a lot of time and hassle.
Right.
Because the tank is worth a fair amount of money. And so we've had times where they sell the tank in the sale, come to find out a year later, it's not in there depending on the covenants and the warranties on the house sale. We've had people then they're out that tank.
Right.
So
Right. And of course they only know about this when it runs out of gas.
exactly. Or the first time they go to get their fill. They've been living in the house, let's say they bought it in May and the tank was full, and now it's October and we've never had LP, and they go and they call us up and we get there, can't fill it. Well, then it starts the whole dance and it's way past closing time and so.
Oh, well, so I think what we need to take away from this part is find out who somebody owns a tank, whether it is actually the customer
Or the LP
supplier.
Correct.
Okay, and then I overheard you say, and you pressure test. I had a customer that called me and said they smell gas. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and we take this very seriously. It's like
Absolutely.
how bad, get out of the house, the whole gamut, because there is a definite smell for gas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get there, the furnace is running, and sure enough, I can smell gas. So I'm thinking, shut everything down, get everything locked and key, get people out of the house. I'm really panicky. And fire department shows up.
Sure.
The whole thing. I'm
thing.
like, I remember it because it had a long driveway through a snowbank of fields, and they ran out of gas. It was like that smell that you get when
Kind of that rotten egg smell.
Yes.
Right? Yep.
So explain to me, like, yeah, it got low on gas. It was running, and I have this smell. What is all this?
So, the chemical compound's called ethyl mercaptan, and it's that classic, smells like rotten eggs. You smell it in natural gas, propane. So, propane and natural gas themselves, they're odorless. So this is added post-production for the safety, for the feature of that. You smell it smells, and so what happens is it's almost like an oil, and so it maintains itself within the fuel because propane is liquid, and it maintains itself in there. But after time, many fills, many years, that oil, it will start to settle out a little bit, So that's why, like, if propane sits in a tank for like 25 years and never gets opened up at all, and you open it up the top, it boils, the gas vapor comes off. Sometimes you can't smell it because all the ethyl mercaptan is basically faded out into the bottom of the tank. So what happens is when you get low, you think about your tank, it's full of liquid, it's boiling, it actually boils. That's where you get your product from to use for your furnace. And as that liquid gets lower, well, eventually it gets down to the bottom. And depending on the age of that tank, there could be a lot of oil at the bottom of that. And not a lot. I mean, we're talking minuscule. But when that's concentrated, it is stinky. That's what we smell when we transfer product over from tank to tank. If somebody does a switch, the very bottom is, you don't need a lot. So what happens is it gets down to that, and that last part is boiling off. There's a lot of extra ethyl mercaptan. So that's what's going through the line. It's not necessarily, at the beginning, you're not necessarily out of propane or maybe having a leak. That doesn't mean to say that if you smell that ethyl mercaptan, you smell gas, to not call somebody. Correct. I mean, we always say, you smell gas, you call. Right. You usually call your supplier first, and we'll walk you through instructions as to what to do for safety checks, things like that. So, as it gets to the bottom of that, yes, they'll smell that. Or if they run out of gas, sometimes they'll say they'll keep smelling that smell. Well, that's what's going on, is that last vapor is so strong, it'll fill the house. Thankfully, it doesn't mean that it's a dangerous situation. It still needs to be taken care of, because running out of gas in and of itself is a dangerous situation, especially in the middle of winter. And you don't want to be running on, fumes like that. So, but no, that's exactly what it is. It's just leftover
bottom of the tank.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then that brings me up to another subject. So, like, our new furnaces, they're two-stage. They run at different amounts of fuel consumption per hour, BTUs per hour.
Gotcha.
Okay, so in our new equipment, we have to put an inline pressure safety switch so that when the gas pressure dips low, it cuts off our furnace. Yep, so our furnace won't start. Other appliances may still work because the bottom of that tank, we found out, is so nasty it destroys our gas valves in these high-end furnaces.
Yes.
So we actually check for gas pressures, and this will bring me up to another thing that I've got going on here is as we check for gas pressure, so it's very, very small. Incoming gas pressure from LP, I want to say it's between 11 and 14 inches of water. So it's
correct.
Really minute pressure-wise. And we'll be checking this, and other appliances will kick on and it changes. And I was like, man, what happened here? And so I'm trying to regulate the gas pressure, and I'm finding out some homes they add appliances that are gas. Now, I don't know about you guys, but from what I found was they would tee off of certain lines, which is perfectly fine, except for the lines they were teeing on for LP, they're smaller. They're like 3/8, quarter, and they're trying to run a water heater now and a furnace, and it's like. It's not like we're out to find out what are these homeowners hiding in their stuff. It actually changed the performance of their appliances.
Correct.
And I bet if somebody added an on-demand water heater, their LP consumption would change that you don't even know how often you should be there.
So Wisconsin actually has a law called the reverse duty to warn. So if a customer is on LP, it is actually, by law, we come in and we do our first inspection. So they become a customer of Crawford Oil. We take note of every appliance they have in their home. serial numbers, everything. That's for the customer's safety as well as ours, because we don't always know what happens when we're not there. So we were finding times where this, where somebody would do their own installation. Maybe an accident would happen, the LP company never even knew they did this, and we're saying, well, we can't help in safety situations if we're not aware of a change. Okay, so there is a law in Wisconsin that states if you change anything in your home on LP, by law you have to notify your LP provider so that we can come back out, run a system inspection, make sure that everything is actually safe and pressure, and also safe on leak detection. So I can't tell you how many times, not with Rock Solid, that we go back out and we find that either the furnace or the extra hot water, it is completely leaking, it wasn't hooked up properly. Well, now who would be liable in situations like that, correct? You know? So thankfully, this law is very good for LP suppliers. It gives us a moment of protection. And also we explain this to every customer. It's fantastic. And so it helps to give a little bit more of basically some liability on contractors and installation. If you want to install your hot water heater yourself, that's fine. We're not saying not to do that. But then you just have to call us to make sure, because like you said about that pressure. So on the, well, we got one here. On the house, you've got this regulator like this. Inside is a dial that you turn up and down, increases how much pressure they take from the tank into the house. So either we're not going to be able to get enough pressure from the tank to the house, so we have to increase the pressure from the tank going to the house, and then here, sometimes just a little dial change on this sucker opens everything up in the house and everything's full. But you are correct. A tankless water heater edition, usually the pressure has to be adjusted.
And the gas piping has to be increased.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Very, very, very high consumption.
And again, we find this out only when there's a problem. When it's 40 below zero.
40 below zero is usually when we find it.
Everybody's using gas for something. We're taking showers at the same time. Like most of the time, you might not even notice. And those are the hard ones to catch, everybody. And that's why we're having this talk here today with you is definitely not to say what things are wrong, but so that you can be like, well, the furnace didn't work yesterday, but it's working fine today. What was a change? And that brings me back to that regulator too, John. Is I've found where there's either a bunch of bushes or ice. I think we even have this on our site somewhere too, where icicles will form on this, or a vent from the new water heater. Because again, who knows? You put the vent out there and it blows on the it blows on the regulator that was right. It was never there before, and these minor things change. But now the sun comes out. I'm like everybody else. We're busy. We got a whole bunch of calls in the morning. We don't get to our customer till the afternoon. By now the ice is melted.
Everything's fine.
We're like, what's wrong?
Exactly.
What happened? And this is really what we're after, everybody. It's just to educate you about what you may have in your home, contributing to things that we can't find unless we actually are there all the time.
Correct. So like usually the first thing we'll take a look at if there's like a pressure change or appliances aren't working, but some are, is we'll have the customers, they can go out and you can take a look at the regulator here. We want to make sure the vent underneath here is completely free and that there's no like ice, everything covered on the regulator. If you're not comfortable removing any of that stuff, we always say that's fine. Just give us a call and we can come out and make sure everything's cleaned up, working properly. Because there is a membrane inside of this that kind of moves up and down. It's a rubber gasket. And that rubber gasket, if ice and moisture gets in there, can't move. Right. If it can't move, probably going to have some problems inside the house. Right?
Exactly.
But as we always say, it's rather to be safe than sorry. If something's not operating properly, usually we always say first, give the LP supplier the call, and then we can determine whether or not to call on heating contractors, things like that. Just because a lot of the times if the heating contractor gets called, of course it's a charge right away. They come out and then you come to find out that the regulator just needs a little tap and cleaning.
Right.
And we hate to have an extra service call for the customer if it's something that we're out delivering every day in the area. We can just stop by, check it out, give a recommendation from there. So
very cool. Another thing that I've got a lot of customers asking about. I mean, let's face it, big ugly tank is sitting in my yard. Is there a place we can hide it around the corner? Or how close to a building can it be? You know, some people want to put in like these garage heaters on their buildings. Like, is there there has to be a distance, and I would assume there's a distance from buildings or a certain location.
10 feet.
Okay, 10 feet from a building. Okay, so the tank can't be any closer than 10 feet from a building. Another thing to consider, again, when the weather's nice, everybody can get up a driveway because there's no snow.
Correct.
All right, so sometimes the LP supplier isn't just parking this ugly thing in the front yard or side yard, not thinking about things. They're actually thinking about all seasons here in the state of Wisconsin.
Yep.
You know, so
we work really well with the customers as to what is realistic and what's not. You know, and each property is different. You know, if they want the tank 100 feet away from the house, we only have 125 to 150 feet of hose. So if that truck can't get to a stage to where we can reach the tank, can't reach the tank, right?
okay.
In addition to that, a lot of people will say, well, we want the tank this far away, you can just drive, on the lawn. That's fine. Well, unfortunately, we're having a very warm winter. And if the ground is not going to be fully frozen all the time, you're going to have ruts, you're going to have, so
Right.
there's always this, working with the customer to say, hey, understanding there's risks and rewards and everything how you decide this. Being out like in the trees and things like that, that's fine. I mean, within reason, we can work with that. You still have to trench to it. But no, I'd say that we're fairly flexible, with that. There's just certain areas that a tank just physically can't go, like on a hill and it's flat surface. So, but as long as we can get to it and they understand what we need to do in order to get to it, and understanding that, hey, if it's the summer and you're getting low and you need a delivery and it's wet and muddy and we can do our best, there could be ruts and things like that, and so we usually try to find that nice happy medium that works for everyone. But man, yeah, the icy driveways, yeah, that's a tough one.
Right.
That's a tough one.
Especially these heavy trucks and the
Yes.
safety too. Once you're on ice, they can't stop.
Yep.
They can't stop. I've seen you guys, poor truck drivers, not you personally, but other ones too. They just get sideways.
We did.
It's just brutal.
We've had the experience. Thankfully, we've never had any sort of like rollover or major incident. But it's snowy or icy. You have the truck chalked and everything. You're at the tank, and pretty soon the hose starts moving, and you got to get to the truck quick, traveling down. I mean, it happens, And so we've developed a little bit more of a policy with our customers. If we don't feel that it's safe, we ask, saying we need to have the driveway clear before we can safely make the delivery. It's just the way it goes now. So.
And your drivers are just like our service technicians. I mean, let's face it, just like your family at home, we all want to come home to our family.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
we all want to come home. We all have to drive in it, and again, we're all working together to keep heat in your house, keep appliances running properly. So at the end of the day, that's all everybody ever asks, and
Absolutely.
and I think at least all the customers I've been encounter with, through all these years, they understand safety, and that's really cool. That because like I say, your truck drivers, they're meeting Chad and the guys out in the field, they're just like the rest of us. They want to do their job and they want to come home safe.
They do, and they work hard, and they'll do. It's not. We always work with our customers as to what is best. And so if my guys tell me they're in a situation where they're not comfortable, they've exhausted every possible possibility first. We are very willing to work with customers to make sure that it's safe and workable for them.
Can we bury those tanks?
You can.
Really?
It's not as easy as one thinks. I mean, it's simple. You dig a hole and put a tank. However, the tank is steel, it can rust, so you have to make sure, depending on the soil samples, there's anode bags, and you have to test the tank annually to make sure that the soil with its different acidity and metallic levels are not rusting the tank out and things like that. But yeah, it's quite possible. We don't actually do the bearing. That's a different contractual work. We can provide the materials and things like that for it. We'll do the test and make sure everything's okay. But yeah, there's really not an issue with it anymore. The costs have gotten fairly high, so a lot of people, have strayed away from it at times, just because steel prices have nearly doubled from when I've started. But yeah, you can even splice tanks together. So building yourself a nice, big 6,000 square foot home, which we've seen.
Yeah.
10,000 square foot homes we've done.
Right.
They'll take 2 1,000 gallon tanks. You can actually do up to 3 that are feeding 1 input. So we've done it. 3 1,000 gallon tanks underground, all manifolded together, 1 line to the home.
No kidding.
Yep. And so it's depending on the storage, what you need, and so.
I have to ask too. Customers will tell me this, and I say, I think you better call your supplier. But can we paint them?
Depends. If you own the tank, absolutely, paint to your heart's desire. The tanks that we provide, since we own the tank and it's leased out, we have to do all the painting and maintenance on the tank. And usually the 95% of the tanks that are in our field have all come from factory powder coated, so it's a very special paint, and so any sort of like touching up, things like that, we usually take care of. We have our own spray and stuff that we'll take care of, things like that.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But yeah, no, it's just steel. We always ask that you tell us first, because the last thing we want is someone out there sandblasting a tank with a valve on. It's extremely dangerous.
Right.
But you can paint tanks. If they're older, kind of a crackly paint, you say absolutely, you can take a roll, just roll her over, and
okay,
that's fine.
So
Take
they own it, yeah.
They own it, yeah, go for it.
Well, very calm.
So, yeah.
Well, one of the other things that I've seen with these, going back to these regulators too, is if there's a bunch of bushes around them too tight, that causes problems, and bugs. We've actually had one where there's a screen on the bottom,
yes.
and apparently the mud dauber type hornets would get
Yes.
over there, build in there.
Very, 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 very much so. That's actually how we can find leaks underground. It's because that Ethelmer captain actually attracts flies, of all things, and so bees and things like that. So like if there's like a 50-foot run to the tank, let's say, and we've leak checked, and we're finding a leak, and they can happen underground. Sometimes we've seen these old where they've done black iron pipe, not coated, underground. It's just a matter of time. Yes.
Right.
And if that's there, we usually rip it out and we'll put copper back in. However, you're trying to figure out where is there's got to be a leak underground. We have deduced it is underground. And if it's in summer, I'm not kidding. You'll be walking and you'll find a pile of flies, just
there it is.
There it is. And you'll dig down and you'll find that either somebody had taken a trencher at one point, maybe nicked just enough, but yeah. And so, but yeah, the bugs can be just vicious. They'll build these mud nests around it. So it allows, there's no venting for the regulator, and eventually it just shuts down the regulator. So nothing will work in the house. Usually that's when you'll find hot water stops working, in general.
Yep.
The stove doesn't light. Well, once again, like in the winter with ice, in the summer, bugs.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Well, very cool. Well, I think I've covered pretty much everything here that I had on my list. But what I do want to cover is there are customers that I've been to where I've gotten there and they're out of gas, okay? And they're on a keep fill. Now, I'm not saying whatever company, it doesn't matter. It's called a keep fill.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Right. Well, especially when it hits 40 below zero, right?
True.
You're burning BTUs in a house to keep it warm. So you're going through a lot of LP. It's so easy to run out of gas on a keep fill, but they are out there. Explain to me like how your, everybody is different.
Sure.
Everybody's company, but
Sure.
how your keep fill operates.
The keep fill systems, it's free of charge. We can fill you during just the winter months or all year long. It's based upon degree days. So basically we can, after we do a couple of fills, we can kind of figure out a degree day, which is based upon 60 degrees. So if the average temperature for the day is 40 and 60 is the base, so you go through 20-degree days that day.
Oh.
Okay, and then based on the 20-degree days and your K factor, how much you use, we can figure out based on this much time, this is how much gas you would have consumed. So it's all just mathematics,
Right.
and we still do it by hand. I'm in the process of developing my own computer program to do this because the ones that are out there right now, I don't like them. And so
Okay.
I've tweaked my own. I'm working with my buddies in Madison, this IT company. We're going to have an app that we're going to use, but that's in the future, so stay tuned.
Alright,
But,
stay tuned.
but for right now, what will happen is maybe like somebody will add an appliance. That's how sometimes we find it, right?
Right.
Or they go out of town and they turn their thermostat. You know, for some reason we've had when they do the opposite. They think that they're turning it, up to, or turning it down, and they turn it up to like 80.
Oh no.
And they leave, and it's just burning through extra,
Oh wow.
So regardless of how it happens, I mean, that's how we do it. Then we can gauge when to come out, and then as we track your consumption, we can tweak things from there. The other cool thing is that this is how we found stuff. Is that we'll just say, hey, your consumption drastically increased. We maybe you call the customer to find out nothing's changed, or maybe we'll run a leak check, things like that. Or the opposite. All of a sudden they stop using gas.
Right.
So we'll call and say, hey, we're out of town. Did you set the thermostat correctly? And things like that. So they keep those services, many other things. The other thing too is that if you do run out of gas, there's usually a pretty good compensation that comes with that, because that is our fault. If it's deemed to be our fault, right?
Right.
I would say we have, I can't remember, I mean, one or two that have been our fault in the last 2 years. I mean, it's very rare. We're very, very accurate in our key fill delivery. Usually 9 times out of 10, it is something that's happened in the house or something that's happened to cause the problem. But we found that being on a key fill is very safe. It's a good thing to do. It takes the pressure off of having to know like when you look at the tank. It's 40 below. Do you want to go out there and look at your tank? Not necessarily.
Right. So it's that preventive maintenance kind of thing. So you see like, hey, there's a storm for the next week. You can go through your chart of customers and go, this is where I want to nail.
Correct.
Get in here now before next week.
It gives us like a lot of flexibility. So like when we see a cold spell coming, we can pull ahead in our system to give us that wiggle room, knowing that there'll be a lot of calls coming in as well. People who do want to monitor themselves. So that way we don't become overwhelmed and swamped.
Right.
And that's what people they constantly tell us, like, oh man, we're always there within 5 days, and with sometimes the same day, and it's like, well, we are tracking not only the key fill system working ahead, we have a whole delivery system that we use, everyone's communicating, but it's that whole thing, everyone working together just keeps things efficient. The crazy thing, which we were going to talk about, as long as we're talking 40 below, propane doesn't work below -40. It doesn't boil.
I know. I called you last year when it was 40. I'm I can't get this gas to work in this furnace. What's going on?
It's like, it just doesn't. The properties of LP and liquid propane, it has to boil in order to become vapor. And so like out in North Dakota, of course it gets colder than that. People actually have tank heaters, things like that. So if people have a tank out in a heavy wind area, right? Like it's near a field that's open, and we see these types of temperatures coming, we'll say like, hey, get some hay, some hay bales and put around it. Not on top, of course, you want to plug it, but to give it some warmth, or you have to wait for the sun to come out and actually warm up the tank. But we had probably about 20 phone calls during that cold snap last year. That one, was it called 6-7 day period?
Yeah. Oh, I'll never forget.
It was. Yeah, I know. You guys, everybody was. It was tough. But that's the first time in Wisconsin in many, many years that we've had that happen, where it was like, no, the contractors are out there calling us, not you, saying, no, you have bad propane. No, propane can't freeze. It's just, it can't boil. It's too cold. It's just science. It can't boil.
Well, there you go. And see, I knew very little about how propane works. I've learned more now in the last couple of years, and that's why I thought bringing us together in front of the screen,
absolutely,
with all of our customers that maybe even if it's not you personally that didn't know this, but maybe your neighbor,
Correct.
comes across
People,
this.
Yeah,
or,
people talk.
you know,
They do.
so-
And it's just nice to get all that information out there, And I think the last thing I want to say is that no matter what with the system, is to always still be cautious, right?
Yeah,
There's
it's
still-
gas. It's
I mean,
still gas.
all the stuff that needs to happen to come together to really cause a really bad accident, it's so rare. I mean, a lot of things have to happen. So, I mean, smelling gas, things like that, we take care of it, we get on it. It's an important situation. But we also want people to know it's very safe, especially outside.
Right.
If there is a leak outside, it's not, we're not saying it's safe, it still needs to be dealt with, but it's not like inside of a house where it's filling in a contained area.
Correct.
So it's like you smell something outside, give us a call, but please don't feel like, there's this terrible, like my whole area is gonna go up in flames. Outside is much, much safer to work with than in the basement.
Right.
So we still tell people, you smell it, you call us, we'll walk you through the process. And like I said, it's an extremely safe product, so.
Right on. And I do remember too when you're saying about smelling gas, if I remember correctly, LP is heavier than air.
Correct.
So it would be down low.
You got it.
So to smell it.
Correctly. So I mean, we usually urge people to put detectors in their homes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I would agree with that.
and not near your furnace, because like the regulator, furnace is spitting, and there's vapor, right, and that escapes at times. So in a basement in a low area that's not near an appliance, the idea around that is that if the house were to fill all the way, I mean really fill, which would
Right.
take a long time, but it can happen.
Yes.
And it would fill with gas, and then it would get to the second level, let's say where you're coming in the door, and you open that door and you flip the light switch, that's the ignition point, right?
Right.
So if you have it in the basement and you come up to your home and you can hear that alarm going off, it gives you that moment of pause saying, whoa, maybe I don't want to go in the house, or you go in and don't take your cell phone, nothing. You
Right.
figure out what's going on.
Right.
We had the incident, unfortunately there was an incident, it was with natural gas, not with propane. The gentleman was in the first floor of his house smelling, and didn't call to do anything, and then turned the light switch on. That's when the accidents all happen. And so we tell people, if you do that, open windows, especially if it's up to that level, open windows, get out of the house, shut your tank off, call that, at that point usually fire departments, things like
Fire
that.
department, yep.
But like I said, a lot of things do have to come together, pressure, things like that, for an accident to happen. Outside, like I said, it is, and most of it does, it dissipates. Outside, unless it's a full liquid leak, which, if your tank blows off a full liquid leak, it looks like kind of like fog. It's this giant white fog, and then it settles out and stuff. Which at that point, yes, stay away. Vapor, this is something I think is really interesting people to think about. I believe it's around 300 cubic feet, 165 cubic feet. It's a very large number. I wish I would have remembered to write it down. But 1 gallon of LP can fill basically about 150 to 350 balloons.
No way.
So that, when you think about how much gas like a leak, 1 gallon is that much cubic feet
Right.
that you're burning in your furnace.
Right.
So when there's that tiny little leak, people will call and they'll say, I think I'm losing gallons a minute. It's actually a tiny amount of liquid.
Right.
That's how much actually expands out.
Spain.
So yeah,
Very
I
cool.
forget the square footage, but it's crazy how much square footage of vapor comes from 1 liquid gallon of propane.
Wow.
So
Well, very
sorry,
cool.
I'll talk all day.
Yeah,
so.
right. So would I. Well, I appreciate your time coming out with
Absolutely.
everybody
Oh,
and
thank you.
going through
Thank
everything.
you. Absolutely.
And
Anytime.
yes, and everybody just be safe out there and have a great winter and stay warm. Thanks again, guys.